Hey guys, it's Owen from Wrestling Inc. back with another wrestling news roundup. Without any further ado, let's get into today's stories in the world of professional wrestling. The Rock vs Roman Reigns heavily teased on Young Rock. The dream bout between undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns and WWE legend The Rock was teased on Tuesday night's episode of Young Rock on NBC. The episode was once again set in 1996 as a young Dwayne Johnson begins training under his father, WWE Hall of Famer Rocky Johnson. At one point, Johnson is seen watching the 1996 Royal Rumble alongside his parents, grandmother, the Iron Sheik, and the Wild Samoans. This is followed by a young child jumping into the lap of Afa and Sika just as WWE Hall of Famer Yokozuna hit a Samoan drop on TV. The child tries then to get somebody in his family to hit him with a Samoan drop, but doesn't get the desired response. The young tribal chief then points to the camera and yells, "Acknowledge me." Johnson, who is narrating the story in the year 2032, then points out that the kid's name is Joe. An infographic, as can be seen on the show, then pops up on the screen listing out all of Reigns' accomplishments in the WWE. Thereafter, a young Reigns tries to put The Rock in a headlock, saying, quote, "Come on Dewey, let's wrestle." In response, Johnson responds, quote, "No, the world is not ready. A match that big can happen only at WrestleMania." The potential Rock vs Reigns bout was also teased on the WWE Evil episode based on the tribal chief earlier this week. As noted previously, The Rock vs Roman Reigns is the current working idea to main event next year's WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles, according to Dave Meltzer of The Wrestling Observer. Brock Lesnar no longer listed for upcoming WWE Premium Live event. Brock Lesnar has been pulled from the listing for the upcoming WrestleMania Backlash Premium Live event. We noted earlier this year how Lesnar was advertised for WrestleMania Backlash and Money in the Bank from the time the events were first announced. Lesnar has not been seen since losing the WrestleMania 38 main event to undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, but coming out of WrestleMania he was still being advertised for Backlash and Money in the Bank. In an update, WWE updated their events page listing for WrestleMania Backlash sometime this week, and Lesnar was removed. While the Dunkin' Donuts Center website still has the Backlash graphic up with Lesnar on it, the WWE website was updated this week and Lesnar was pulled. The Backlash graphic on the Arena website is dated and will likely be updated soon. The only upcoming show WWE still has Lesnar advertised for as of this recording is the Money in the Bank Premium Live event, which is scheduled for Saturday, July 2nd from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. There's no word on what WWE has plans for Lesnar's future or if there'll be another match with Reigns. Several months back it was reported that the Lesnar vs Reigns feud was going to be a series of matches that ended at WrestleMania 38, and there was no talk of any rematches coming out of WrestleMania. WWE WrestleMania Backlash will take place on Sunday, May 8th from the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island. WWE Smackdown star returns to NXT. Natalya has arrived in WWE NXT 2.0. This week's NXT episode featured Cora Jade coming to the ring to address how she came up short at Stand and Deliver in the NXT Women's Title Fatal 4-Way. She also talked about how she's focused on becoming champion and how her goal is the same as it was when she was 8 years old and wrote in her notebook about becoming champion in WWE one day. Jade says no matter what it takes, her name will be up there with people like AJ Lee, Paige, and WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Sasha Banks and others. Jade then mentioned how one day the generation of Jade will be upon us, but the music interrupted and out came the veteran WWE superstar Natalya. Natalya received a big ovation from the WWE Performance Center crowd with chants of Holy SHIT and Natty before she took the mic. Natalya began crying when talking about how the venue brought back so many memories for her. She then introduced herself to Jade, and Jade recalled how she messaged Natalya on Twitter after a 2011 WWE live event in Hammond, Indiana, where Natalya pointed to Jade in the crowd. Natalya didn't respond then, but she saw the message years later when she went to send a message to Jade to congratulate her on her NXT debut. Natalya said she knew then that she pointed to the right girl in the crowd that night. Jade talked about how Natalya was her first favorite superstar and the first action figure she ever bought. Natalya praised Jade some more and said she loves how Jade has passion for the business. Natalya cried some more and says she sees Jade as the future of NXT when she looks around the locker room, but she believes the future is bleak. That's when Natalya slapped Jade to the mat. Fans booed Natalya as she immediately applied the sharpshooters to Jade, who quickly tapped out. Natalya kept the submission locked in until officials finally got her up to break the hold. Natalya was later shown walking through the women's locker room when Tatum Paxley stopped her. Paxley says she's been trying to prove herself to the Diamond Mine and the rest of the locker room, so now if she has to step up to a veteran, then so be it. Natalya responded and agreed to face Paxley. She then looked around the rest of the women's locker room and warned everyone that they are all on notice because the boat is now here in NXT. WWE later announced Natalya vs Paxley for next Tuesday's NXT 2.0 episode. New WWE NXT Tag Team Champions crowned. Pretty Deadly are your new WWE NXT Tag Team Champions. Last night's NXT 2.0 episode saw Pretty Deadly's Alton Prince and Kit Wilson win a 5-team gauntlet match to capture the vacant titles. The other teams in the match were Grayson Waller and Sanga, Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde of Legado del Fantasma, Josh Briggs and Brooke Jensen, and the Creed brothers. The gauntlet began with the Creed brothers taking on Wilde and Mendoza. Julius Creed ended up pinning Wilde to eliminate Legado del Fantasma, and the next team to enter the gauntlet was Briggs and Jensen. Brutus Creed would eventually pin Jensen for the next elimination. Grayson Waller and Sanga entered the gauntlet next, but Julius would go on to pin Sanga for the elimination. The final team to enter the match was Pretty Deadly. They fought the Creed brothers for several minutes until they had a double modified neckbreaker onto Brutus to pin him and win the titles. This is the first title reign for Pretty Deadly on the main NXT brand. The titles were declared vacant last Friday after MSK's Nash Carter was quietly released by the company due to abuse allegations from his wife Kimberly, who is still under contract to Impact Wrestling. MSK won the titles from Imperium at NXT Stand and Deliver on April 2nd, but they only held them for 5 recognized days before they were relinquished. Pretty Deadly just arrived to NXT last Tuesday as the Creed brothers' mystery attacker and the Hooded Men who recently vandalized the Diamond Mine Dojo. Formerly known as Lewis Howley and Sam Stoker in NXT UK, Pretty Deadly first started working with WWE in early 2019 after successful runs on the UK Indies. They defeated Gallus to win the NXT UK Tag Team titles on the February 25, 2021 edition of NXT UK. They held the straps for 287 recognized days until dropping them to Mustache Mountain on the December 9 episode. So what are your thoughts on today's Wrestling News Roundup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Inc. and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.